This album is it's okay. It's okay. I'm a fan of The National, but I'm not getting that much enjoyment from this album, to be honest. The National, of course, are an American indie rock band. They've been going for years. They've put out some pretty acclaimed albums, some modern classics like Alligator, which I love, and Boxer, which I also love. And their last album, Trouble Will Find Me, it split quite a few critics, but the overall consensus was it was a great album, and I absolutely loved that too. I loved the tone and just the atmosphere of that album. It was very dark and gloomy, but it was pulled off really well. And this album also follows that same dark, gloomy pattern as Trouble Will Find Me, which I have no issue with. But the issue that I'm taking with this album is Matt Berninger's vocals across a lot of these songs. They feel honestly nondescript and feel like they're without any kind of pulse. Like they're so lifeless. I'm just not getting much from it at all. Not only that, but there's not really much of a lyrical arc to this album. Like the lyrical themes across these songs feel quite scattered, whereas Trouble Will Find Me did have quite a concise narrative to it, which is fine. That they on that there might not be as much of a larger concept with this one, but I'm going to talk about some of the issues here with some of these tracks because there are quite a few. Firstly, the opening track. Wow, this was just such a dour way to introduce an album. Like, seriously, I just was just so underwhelmed with this intro track. I couldn't get anything from this at all. Even if there was a deeper meaning hidden somewhere, I couldn't get with the instrumental. Matt Berninger's vocals again. And we get this issue on the closing track too, Sleep Well Beast. I mean, this is a worse, like probably the worst song on the album. This is far worse than that intro. Um, and like I always feel like a strong album needs a good intro and a good end because the end is always like the thing that leaves you with a good taste in your mouth kind of thing, like, oh, this is how I remember the album because of the end. And the intro is a way to kick off the album, of course, to make you excited. But both of these songs, like this album's just bookended with the most uninteresting songs they could have made. We get the same nondescript vocal performance from Matt on the track Walk It Back, and ironically, it has a lyric that basically sums up this album. I tried to save it for a rainy day, it's raining all the time, and that's basically this album. It's just a rainy day of an album. There's gloom, it's dark, it's misty, and that's just how this album is, really. And I'm fine with gloomy and dark albums. I mean, Skeleton Tree by Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds wasn't exactly sunshine and San Francisco cocktails by the beach, but there was a lot of, gripping music in that album. And I think the biggest offender that Sleep Well Beast has is that the instrumental palette is about as colourful as the album cover itself. I find a lot of the music to be quite basic on a lot of these songs. I mean, except for Karen at the liquor store, this song does have a really nice piano, and the meaning of the song, which Aaron wrote about his mother, I do find the lyrics to be quite nice on this track. But, on these slower tracks on the rest of the album, none of them quite grip me that much. This is one of the fewer ones that does. I'd even argue that the lyrics on this album are pretty vague too. There's not really much that stands out, and some of the choruses just leave a bit more to be desired. I was born to beg for you, and stuff like that. It's just a bit, generic and a bit cliche. And maybe if Matt Berninger put a bit more emphasis with his vocals, then I would think that this might be more enjoyable, but because he doesn't, he kind of leaves it in the same tone all across the album. I'm just kind of a bit But the best moments on this album are when they go back to their indie rock roots and make more guitar driven songs like Day I Die. I think that's a pretty good indie rock song, but you could find songs like that on Alligator and Boxer anyway, so it's not like they've not done this before. But I've already done a track review on System Dreams only no The System Only Dreams in Total Darkness, there we go. And I think this is a really good song. I still think it's a fantastic song. I love the little guitar things that come through. And the chorus is pretty catchy as well. They're referencing some politics on this song, and they do it quite well, which a lot of bands don't seem to get right these days. And I still think that's one of the best songs here. And Turtleneck, wow, like where did that instrumental come from? I did not expect this from the National at all. The relentless instrumentation on this is so good. I was really fired up when this song comes on. Like this is a really great one. That's about as much as I can say for positives, though. I mean, I can't really find myself being in the mood for this dour type music. I can in some respects with some artists and some albums that pull it off well, but they tend to have a bit more substance with the lyrics and the vocals, have more life to them. But this album isn't working. If you want a rainy day, thundery kind of day, depressing feel for an album, then go for this. But just like with that James Blake album that came out last year, The Colour in Anything, I don't really want to have to wait for a rainy day to enjoy an album. Oh, and I need to address this as well. I've seen some people say that this is like the Nationals' Kid A, like this is their version of Kid A. And where the hell's that come from? This is not anything in the realms of Kid A. Like Kid A was revolutionary and did things that was very different for its time, but this isn't doing anything different. So how is this Kid A? Whew. Anyway, if you do like this album, then of course keep listening to it. My opinion is just my opinion. I personally feel like I want to go back to Trouble Will Find Me, which had way more lyrical substance and a bit more interesting instrumentation and had a better lyrical theme across the whole album. So that's what I'm going to do. There are some good moments on this album, but really at the end of the day, it's just okay. I would say this is a C minus for me, which is about equivalent to a 6 out of 10, which isn't negative. That's pretty decent as a result, but they have so many great albums in their catalogue anyway, so there's always going to be a few duds with bands like this. So, yeah, that's about as much as I can say. If you did like this review, though, make sure you subscribe for more reviews. Let me know what I should review next, and have a good